I'm here with Ashley Warwick.
I teach a couple of different courses in the MBI, the Music Business and Industry Department. I teach a stage performance techniques class, which is my absolute favorite, where students can be working on musical projects or any other type of performance techniques. So it could be public speaking, you could be a poet and working on like slam poetry or anything else that you wanted. And that class is all about learning how to be a really dynamic performer and connect with your students on stage. I also teach voice lessons or singing lessons, and I've got 11 students this semester, which has been really fun and really rewarding. We work on vocal technique and also that same kind of idea of stage performance, how to connect with your audience. Some of my students have been singing for a long time and have a lot of professional uh, training, and others are brand new and have never sung in front of an audience before and they just want to give it a try. In the exercise science department at Lyndon, I also teach breath work, meditation, and relaxation techniques. And then I teach a collaborative class, which is collaborative creativity in music. And that's always a really fun and interesting course where we basically build our own adventure each semester and determine what we want to do. It's a big group project and it's very much student driven. COLLAB is this really like open-ended choose your own adventure type class that is really good for me to kind of force myself out of that, like everything has to be perfectly planned and really go with the flow. Basically what we do is on day one, we introduce ourselves and then we start brainstorming a creative project, and it's very much student driven. So I've taught this course twice now. The first time we broke into like, I think it was 5 separate groups um, of 5 people each, or four, maybe it was 3 or 4 people each. And so there was 5 different group projects going on at one time, and they were really interesting. We talked about planning a group field trip to Boston and going to tour some recording studios there, or trying to another like trip potential with going to Los Angeles for I always get them confused because my husband's the audio guy. AES is the one in LA, I think, and NAM is the one in New York, or maybe it's vice versa. But we talked about like creating, these are just big conferences for audio folks. We talked about like working on creating a big group field trip to go out there. Other things were people getting together and creating a 3-song demo or an EP, or working together with a couple of different bands to create a live performance, kind of like the Tiny Desk concerts for NPR, except it was going to be a little live performance venue. And so some really fun stuff. And then this year we're creating a YouTube channel for the MBI department, hence this video, and creating little videos to all kind of collaborate towards this big project. So the collab class is really open-ended, student driven, and then we decide as a group, like, what do you guys want to do? What would be a really cool creative project, so long as it's music oriented, and it helps to create really cool stuff on campus. That's actually how GREGGFEST got started, was through the collab class, which is amazing. GREGGFEST is a student-run music festival that is typically 2 days. This year, I think it might only be one, but basically they get um, outside groups to come in and local music groups as well, even like Lyndon music groups to perform. And it's super professional. They get a legit big stage with full on lighting, awesome sound system. And the students of the MBI department of the MISA club put on a music festival. It's really, really cool. I think of it's always in the spring, and it seems to me a little bit like kind of a cool homecoming. So like if you graduated that year, the year before, like you can come back to GREGGFEST, see all of your friends, see some really great music. It's really fun. It's very cool. I've been teaching at Lyndon since the winter semester of 2017. I was teaching yoga and relaxation techniques since then. And I started in the MBI department in the spring of 2019. Oh, my husband and I lived in Los Angeles, and we sat in traffic a lot and cursed other drivers a lot before we moved here. But I was a yoga teacher. I had a very full career as a yoga teacher, which was really fun because it allowed me to sort of be on stage every day, usually 3 to 4 times a day, to help create a really cool environment for my students. And then I also did voiceover work, demo work, and I periodically got to sing when I could get a band put together, and we would perform around town as well. So specifically in the music industry, I've mostly done demo work and voiceover work. Voiceover is basically what you hear when you're just hearing a voice speaking over the commercial or um, like a public service announcement or things like that. So you wouldn't necessarily see my face, but I would read a short script and that would audio would be used for some sort of commercial. Demo work is very much the same. It's like singing a little jingle for a demo for a commercial. So they would use my vocals because I'm less expensive than kind of hiring the real person, right? And so they'd hire me to go in and jump into the studio, do some really quick vocals, and then they would send that off to that would like over to the agency to decide, do they want to go with this direction or that direction for their ad campaign. And if they chose mine, they might actually use my voice if they liked it, or they might audition somebody to find just the right fit for the look that they're going for. My husband and I both went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. So when we moved to Los Angeles, we had a ton of friends that were also just in the industry. And so much of your career ends up being who you know, or you end up meeting really cool people that just say, hey, like, I need a voiceover artist. Are you interested? And so for me, it was my best friend's roommate worked for an agency. He's an audio engineer, and his studio that he worked out of was 3 miles from our apartment. And so I'd be teaching yoga. Usually I'd have a morning yoga class and an evening yoga class, but I was free all midday. So I was really available for him. So he would call me up and say, hey, could you come record a demo this afternoon? Can you be here in like a half an hour? And I'd say, yeah, sure. And I'd get out of my sweatpants and put on real person clothes and I'd trot on down to the studio and, record something for him in like an hour. So I honestly think the way that I got into it was just simply that I was easy to work with, um, available. I knew the right people, which just comes from being willing to get out there and meet people. It was convenient. He could call me and I'd say, sure, I'm on my way. I do. Yeah. It's a little harder living in northern New Hampshire, but, versus living in Los Angeles where there's a lot of opportunity. But I've had a couple of opportunities to do some projects for other fellow faculty members. And then there was also a couple of projects I did that I don't think actually ended up getting onto the radio or not, but a couple of radio spots that I did since I moved here as well. So my husband is the professor Brian Warwick, who got hired as a full-time faculty member. We moved here in 2016. And so, for us, we were just really sick of living in the city and kind of doing the runaround all the time, feeling like we were doing the hustle, working like crazy. And so for us, it was all about a lifestyle change when he got the opportunity to work in such a beautiful location. It's more rural, it's a little slower pace. We could afford a house here. So for us, we hightailed it out of LA as fast as we could and moved here. And, eventually, being that I'm also a musician, having worked in the industry, it ended up being a right fit for me to become an adjunct instructor. Well, this year's been really tough because I teach voice lessons and things and like breath work, which because of COVID, all of my classes have been remote. So I've had very little interaction with any human beings for the last year. But pre-COVID, in the before times, I would often just hang out in the MBI annex. And it was so fun. I love that MBI has this like little group hangout spot, and so I felt like I had really nice interactions and really great connection with the students. Other than that, I've had some opportunities to offer interns and work studies to do some recording for me. So when I was auditioning to sing the national anthem, which because of COVID, the whole thing, the event got canceled, so I didn't get to go. But I was able to reach out to some fellow students and ask them to record for me. and I've done some voiceover work and had them join in as well and record for those types of things as well. So I've had really great interactions with the students. I just love the MBI crew. You know, I went to school in the middle of the city in Boston. I then lived in the middle of Hollywood. And sure, there are definitely reasons why somebody might choose to go to a more urban environment to study music. But at the same time, there's a lot of us who really don't thrive in an urban environment. And there's some really cool advantages to being in a rural environment. There are amazing events that happen throughout the year in Vermont and New Hampshire with live music. There's recording sessions, there's stuff going on here, and you just have to discover it. And the cool thing about coming to a school like Lyndon is that it's smaller, more tight knit, and it feels like a family. I felt immediately embraced by not just the MBI department, but by the entire school when we moved here. And I felt like, originally I'm like, well, I'm just the spouse of the real teacher, the real professor. Why would they care about me? But I felt like from day one, everybody was like, like join us. You're part of the crew now. You're part of the family. And that really meant a lot. So we just love living here. The lifestyle's amazing. That, there's cool outdoor activities you can do. We go hiking, you can go skiing. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to live and really, really wonderful people who will just embrace you. I just love NVU.